Find other great podcasts like this one at podmoth.network.
Hello! Welcome to BSP Believer Skeptic Podcast.
The commercial where two idiots debate weird phenomena.
I'm Chris, I'm the believer.
I'm Cody, I'm the skeptic.
We are an LGBTQ paranormal comedy podcast.
And proud members of the Podmoth Network.
So, did you know there's a creature in Japan called a kappa that tries to suck a bejeweled life force out of your anus?
I did not, and I'm not even going to try debunking that. Instead, I volunteer as tribute.
Okay, so if you like your podcast a little spooky, a little mysterious, a lot gay, do we have the show for you?
Just listen and subscribe to BSP Believer Skeptic Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. And for more content, search BSPodPHX on social media or visit bspodphx.com. Bye!
Hey, Twisted Listeners, I'm Cindy.
And I'm Diva.
And this is Twisted Listeners, a podcast about murder.
And Liz.
And I can't believe I have not said anything about Adnan Syed. I'm so fucking stoked he's out.
Oh, shit. Yeah, you gotta do some TikToks and make it go viral.
Dude, I've been shadow banned. Fuck TikTok. Anyway, if you guys think he's guilty, like, y'all are wilding out. Very sadly, his Heyman Lee's family is appealing the judge's decision to vacate the conviction, and they're not even saying he did it at this point. They're just like, we wanted to be more informed, like we weren't involved.
Right.
And I understand. Listen, I feel for them. I understand their frustration, but like, he didn't fucking do it. Like, it's time to let it go and start focusing on the people who are actual suspects who did it, you know?
It's such a fascinating case, and I just re-listened to all of Serial, the first season, the original one, and we should do like a crime conversations for Patreon where we just talk about it, because I have like so many questions. I like literally just want to anyway, so we might as well record it.
Yeah, I will listen to it this week then, and we can talk about it. So, because I have like...
I wanted to because I know there might be like, litigation or shit coming up. So I wanted to understand what's going on. And I'm like, oh my God, I have so many fucking questions.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Yeah. I'm excited to see what happens, but I don't want to think about it that way, because this is a lot of like pain and suffering for her family. And he suffered for a really long time. So it's exciting, but I say that tentatively understanding that like, this is not fucking cool. It's not like it's not a fucking game. All around. It's real and it sucks. So love to all those families.
But what will be really interesting is if and when they bring charges against a different suspect. That'll be fascinating.
I really want that to happen, because I want her family to get actual closure.
And that would be the only thing that would fully like clear his name.
Yeah. And we're brought to you by the Podmoth Podcasting Network. Check out all the other shows on the network. We run ads for them every episode. There's some really good ones on there, like legit. So check them out.
Yeah.
All right. This is part 2 of costumed killers. People who wore masks or Halloween costumes or other such similar things.
Very thematic.
Yes.
I am in Amsterdam, if you hadn't heard the first episode, and I am in a Halloween-less land, which is not that cool. So this is bringing me a little bit of spooky vibes.
I'm really glad for that, because that's the only thing that I think is really like sad and weird about you being there, is that
Europe in general.
Yeah.
I can't wait to come home. I'm just gonna have to go extra hard when I get home.
Yep. Just make up for it.
Spooky.
I
did also get some like spooky time because I started really early, so at least I was already like maximizing.
Yeah. And you are in Amsterdam, so it could be worse.
No, it could be worse. And I have been in haunted places, so at least there's that.
Yeah, I love that.
There's ghosts. I saw a bunch of like spooky skeleton graves in the church yesterday, and I was like, oh, that's spooky.
I love that. That's great. So it is Halloween. You're making it Halloween-y.
I'm making my own Halloween.
Yeah, that's good. Keep it going. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is part 2. You started last time. I'm going to start this time. But before, let me sell myself to everyone. If you'd like to join us on Patreon, we'll be adding a new Patreon, I think. Are you ready next week?
I'm super ready. Yeah, when I get back. Yeah.
We do one a month, one big case a month, and then we have a murder map, and we add in other little things here and there when we can. You can join.
I might do an Adnan Syed conversation.
Exactly.
I also want to do a Jeffrey Dahmer show conversation.
Oh, yeah.
I have a lot of thoughts.
Let me
about
watch that shit first.
Okay.
Hold on.
It's good. It's actually good.
But you can join us as patreon.com/twistedlisters. If you'd like to join us on TikTok, where, like I said, I've been shadow banned and fuck them, it's just at Twisted Listers. If you'd like to join us on Instagram, you can do that at
Twisted Listers PCast.
If you'd like to send us an email with case suggestions, you can do that at
twistedlisterspod@gmail.com.
And if you would like to check out our website, you can do that at
twistedlisterspod.com.
That's right. All right, let's get into it. More costumed killers. I'm going to talk about a real motherfucker, Rex Allen Krebs.
Okay. I don't know too much about this guy besides the fact that he belongs on this list.
Yes, he has a very have you ever seen the picture? It's like a cartoony strong man. He's got a bald head and a big mustache, and he puts his arm up and he's wearing that jumpsuit.
I'm picturing like Bronson too.
Yes. This is what he looks like. Exactly what he looks like. Bald head, big mustache, big muscles. He sucks. So I'm just going to jump into the story. We're going to start in the middle. On November 12th, 1998, Rachel Newhouse, a 21-year-old student at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, California, went out for a night of drinking with her roommate. Rachel was a super responsible, hardworking, smart young woman who'd come to SLO. We call San Luis Obispo SLO. After graduating high school in Irvine, which is in Orange County, Southern California. Let's make no mistake. I had a lot of friends that went to SLO. It's a fucking party school, okay?
Yes.
You go there. Honestly, there's a lot of schools in California that are fucking party schools.
Where I went to grad school, UCSB.
Yeah, UCSB. I would say most of the schools in California are party schools. We've got Chico, we've got SLO, we've got Santa Barbara, San Diego. I mean, most of the schools are party schools in California.
And that doesn't mean that there's not like really solid, like, academic stuff happening too. It just means that those academics also drink
real fucking hard. So
yeah, especially the baby undergrads,
Yeah. And this is typical, and it says nothing about her besides that she's a typical fucking college student.
Yeah.
So these two go out. I think they're out with other friends as well. They get pretty sloppy. They get nice and drunk, and they get in a fight. They start yelling at each other, and Rachel gets really upset and decides to walk home, which I think is like 2 miles. So this sounds, like I said, super typical college.
And SLO is really safe.
It is.
It's like it's super, super like cutesy little town.
Yes, but remember, this is 1998, and we'll talk about that.
Okay.
So she's walking home, and there's this like longer way where she can take this weird street and or she can just walk over the Jennifer Street Bridge, which isn't so much of a shortcut, it's just like the direct way to get home. And she chooses to do this and walk over the bridge. And there's absolutely not an ounce of victim blaming in my voice when I say don't go over the bridge. Never choose the bridge if you can avoid it. It's just bridges are fucking scary. There's something about them you can't escape.
Very spooky.
There's like, only 2 ways to get in and out. They're just dangerous. So
yeah,
so as she's walking across, a man drives across the bridge in his truck, and he stops and he gets out, and he is wearing a Halloween skull mask that is completely covering his face. He was short. He was very muscular. Obviously, that's fucking terrifying,
Yeah.
He attacks her. She tries to ignore him. She tries to walk around him. She's like, oh, fuck. But he attacks her.
Oh my God.
And he beats her with his fists, knocking her unconscious. And then he drags her unconscious body into his truck, where he ties her hands behind her back. The beating was severe enough that it actually left a pool of blood on the bridge, but that was the only sign that anything had happened there that night. This man then drove Rachel to an abandoned house near his home in Davis Canyon, where he hog-tied her as she woke up. Never removing the mask, he untied her legs and then beat, raped, and tortured her for hours.
And he's wearing a skull mask.
A skull mask. A Halloween, like, skull and bones, like...
God, yeah. This is nightmarish.
When he was done, he hog-tied her again, stuffed her underwear in her mouth, and then left the house. He returned hours and hours later and found that Rachel had slowly suffocated from the ties around her feet and neck because she could no longer hold her body in the position to keep her from choking herself. So basically her legs were like, she was on her stomach with her legs pulled up, attached to her neck. And so as she became weak, her legs were starting to try to go down and she choked herself. which is fucking terrifying.
Oh my God.
2 days after her disappearance, her friends and family officially, actually, I think it was like the day after, they reported her missing, and police began very actively looking for her. And there's a reason for this, and we'll talk about it. They found blood on the bridge, but they had no way of knowing if it was hers because, you know, it's 1998. Again, DNA was not that great. For how great DNA is now, it was a very quick, like, DNA became what it is very quickly, so we didn't really have that much of it even in 1998, right? So she was listed as a missing person, but police definitely believe there was foul play. And one of the reasons that they thought that it was foul play was because just 2 years prior, there was a very famous case of a girl going missing, another Cal Poly student in 1996. And this girl was Kristen Smart.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yep. So the boy, the man who she went missing after coming home late from a party. We talked about this. And the suspect in the case, another student, Paul Flores, we all now know that he fucking did it, and he's finally in prison.
The most guiltiest dude alive.
Yeah, and his dad's also like guilty.
Yeah,
fuck both of them.
Also, we need to do several crime conversations because I've been following the trial coverage on Your Backyard podcast, and it's like you've got to listen to that. It's incredible.
I will.
They're doing very in-depth recaps of the trial.
Oh, and good.
Like, it's the shit he is saying and trying to pull is so repulsive.
Fuck,
like he's a horrible person.
He's a piece of dog shit, and he can die in a fire. So anyway, the police and everybody around town is like, did Paul do this? And at the time in 1998, he was free. Like, they couldn't pin it on him. It was like an open secret. Like, everybody fucking knew he did it. Everybody in the city was like, he's a murderer, but they couldn't tie it to him. So they're like, his name comes up again. But in this case, they really couldn't find a link between him and Rachel's disappearance. So the case kind of goes cold, but the police are still actively investigating. I can't really say it's cold because, you know, within 6 months, everything gets resolved. But basically, they don't have any good leads. They don't have a body. They just know she's gone. And they have that blood that may or may not even be hers. So pretty shortly thereafter, on March 11th, 1999. So we went from November 12th to March 11th. So what is that? Like 4 months? Almost to the day. Another college student goes missing. This student is 20-year-old Cuesta College student Andrea Crawford. She was abducted while studying in her own bedroom. So she wasn't even out at night. Like, she was home.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Also, I've had friends that, I have friends that teach at SLO now at Cal Poly, but I've had friends that taught at Cuesta as well.
Oh, really? Yeah. So
yeah, it's a nice college.
Yeah. This whole area around there is like really cool, but like also what the fuck is up with the murders? So as she was studying, a man was waiting outside of her apartment or house, his face covered with a stocking. So I guess at this point he had gotten rid of the Halloween mask and just went for a more simplistic approach.
Face covering.
Yes. But not as
also
terrifying.
Horrifying. Though.
Yeah. I mean, it's really scary. The way it like squishes your hair and your nose and shit, it's not a good look.
I don't like it.
So this man waited for Andrea to fall asleep and then broke in, climbing through a tiny window. Yeah, he had been casing her house for weeks, so he was stalking her. So he crawled in through a tiny window.
I'm deadbolting my hotel door tonight.
Yeah.
I'm just like, don't forget to lock your door.
Check your windows too. Like, fuck this.
Oh, God.
So as he crawled in through this tiny window, Andrea's cat started screaming. Like, we have a fucking guard cat here. Good cat. Good cat.
Good girl.
Yes.
Good boy.
Andrea woke up and opened her bedroom door just as the man was standing outside of it. And he attacked her, punching her in the face multiple times until she was unconscious. He then hog-tied her and put duct tape over her mouth. He then put a pillowcase over her head and filled another one with CDs, movies, and a VCR. He also grabbed her 8-ball keychain, which had her car keys attached. But this was a trophy because he didn't steal her car. So he just wanted this. This was just something to keep for him. Andrea awoke while back at this man's home. He actually took her to his home and she tried to escape. And she tried real hard. And in the scuffle, she saw his face unmasked and he told her, you know, because of that, I have to kill you now. Prior to her attempting to escape, he had raped and sodomized her for hours and hours. And after she tried to escape, he told her, now I have to kill you. And then he strangled her to death. She was reported missing within a day of her disappearance, and police came out just a few days later saying that they did not believe there was a connection between her disappearance and that of Rachel Newhouse.
Except that it is identical in every fucking way. But okay.
So Rachel's uncle, but remember, they don't know how they were killed yet. They just know they have two, girls. But Rachel's uncle was a DA in Riverside, and he was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" He's like, both young women, they're college students, same area, same age, both had dark hair, similar build, similar size.
Yeah.
Both vanished without a fucking trace. So obviously there's like somebody who's like winding up to be a serial killer if they aren't already, right?
Yeah.
Luckily, he was not the only one whose head was not firmly lodged in his own ass. And there was a parole officer named David Saragosa, and he agreed with this DA uncle and in fact thought he might know who was committing these crimes. So David reached out to the police and told them about one of his parolees, a 33-year-old man named Rex Allen Krebs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Rex Allen Krebs was born in Idaho in 1966 and grew up in a really fucked up family. His aunt, his father's sister, died in a car accident when Rex was only 4 years old, and his already abusive father started drinking even more heavily than he already had been and really abusing the family. So by the time Rex was 4, he was already being beaten regularly, as was his mother and his 3
sisters. Like serial killer training.
Yes. His mother and 3 sisters, one of whom wasn't his father's child, were all also beaten. Okay. Shortly after this major trauma, his parents did split up, but his mother went on to pretty much immediately marry another abusive man who was named Bob the abuser.
Okay.
Pardon me. Who beat Rex as badly or worse than his father did. Bob would also do things to humiliate Rex, like making him wear soiled underwear on his head if he went to bed, even though he was like 5 or 6 and obviously dealing with abuse.
That is a serial killer making thing to do.
Oh, big time.
100%. Yeah.
He also made him wear diapers to school.
Mm-hmm. Oh, God. I feel like I've heard that before with another horrible serial killer. I forget which one. Yeah.
I forget too, but when I read that, I was like, I've heard this before.
Yeah.
His mother was no better. She was an abusive alcoholic, and they would take all of their kids to the bar and make them sit in the car for hours while they were inside the bar getting wasted. And then they'd make the oldest sister drive everyone home in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at least they didn't drive drunk, but that's like literally the only thing they got right here. So finally, when he's 10 years old, Rex's mother, Connie, kicks him out of the house and it makes him go live with his father again, who again begins beating him immediately. Right?
He's an amazing dad. Yeah, yes. Father of the year.
So he cannot get away from this shit. And of course, he starts acting out. He starts breaking into places and stealing shit. And at one point, when he's like 13, he gets caught in a closet in his neighbor's house where he's just in this closet masturbating. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
His father
Baby steps into serial killer dumb.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
His father beats the shit out of him for this, and he also gets arrested. He also was prank calling women, saying really like perverse and like obscene shit to them. He accidentally called another aunt of his who told his dad. So that's another major beating. He also suffered a major head trauma in his teens. He fell off of a truck when he was 18 years old and hit his head and was hospitalized. So major brain trauma. Yeah. And when he was caught masturbating in his neighbor's house, he goes to court and they tell him that he has to see a psychologist, but his dad only lets him go one time before he pulls him out and is like, no, this is not for you. You're too, this is bullshit. You're a man, like deal with it or whatever.
Yeah. Right? No addressing your feelings.
Yeah. But he's already being like diagnosed as having like severe issues.
Yeah.
So by the time he was 15, his father fully admits him to a mental hospital. He's like, I can't handle this kid anymore because he's like breaking in everywhere. He's like doing weird sexually fucked up shit. So he does really well in the hospital, and he's named Gentleman of the Month at one point.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So he's admitted when he's 15, and he's released back to his father's care when he's 17, and immediately the beatings begin again. And when Rex is 18, he attacks a 12-year-old girl and attempts to rape her. He gets 3 whole months in jail for this.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Just relentless. Just all the time we hear these fucking fucked up fucking things. It's a Brock Turner ass sentence right there.
Yes. And the best part is he gets out and steals a car and then he gets 3 years for that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it's property.
Property is more important. Yes.
And we don't care about women at all.
Women not only are considered property, but we're like the lowest value property. Like a car is worth more.
And then if you're a black woman or woman of color, they're like extra fucking.
Yeah. They're like, oh, probation or just like have a nice day.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to ruin your swimming career there. So
right. It's fucking ridiculous. So when Rex gets out, he does 18 months. So I think he gets out when he's 21 or 20 even. And he moves to California with his mother and her fourth husband. And he meets a 17-year-old who agrees to marry him and live with him in his mom's garage, which is a very 17-year-old thing to do. But when she finds out about his past, she does wise up and leave him. So we're now in 1987, and this is when things really go sideways. He's 21. And on May 24th, 1987, Rex here decides to follow a woman home from a bar after he hit on her and she ignored him. Her name was Shelley Crosby. She was also 21 years old. She was a divorced single mom. Rex follows her home. Luckily, her children were staying at the sitter's house that night.
Yeah.
So he waits for her to go to sleep. Sound familiar?
It's so scary.
Yes. He breaks into her house and attacks her. This was in Pismo Beach. So it's like same like kind of general area. This is all like central California along the coast. Like he later did with Andrea. Like I said, he waits for Shelley to fall asleep, breaks in around 6 a.m., puts a knife to her throat and violently rapes her. The last thing he said to her as he left was he got real close to her ear and whispered, "Have a nice day."
No.
Yeah, this guy's just a piece of shit.
Sucks.
3 weeks later, he does a repeat. But this time, it did not work out so well for him. He stalked a woman named Anishka Constantine, another single mother. She's 31 years old. She has a 7-year-old who lives with her.
Okay.
This time, Krebs used a screwdriver to point at Anishka. He puts it in her eye. Like right up to her eye and is like, "I'm gonna fucking stab you." And she's like, "Take my money, take my jewelry, whatever you want." And he's like, "I want you," which is her 7-year-old was asleep in bed with her at the time. And Anishka has her 7-year-old go under the bed. They actually found a phone under the bed, but unfortunately it was like a cordless phone and it was dead because this is the 80s. Again, this is 87. So the fact that they even had a cordless phone was like high tech, but unfortunately it had not been in its cradle. So it was dead. Anishka was a fucking badass, though. Not that any of these women weren't, but she just did something particularly badass. She's like, "Why don't we go in another room?" And she did this because she saw a knife in his belt. She's trying to get him to like move off of her so she can like try to grab it. So he goes to zip his pants up to move to the new room, and she grabs the knife. She actually gets it, and a struggle ensues, and she stabs right at his dick. And I'm like, "That's right, girl."
Amazing.
He has a fucking belt buckle. And it deflects the knife. Yeah.
Okay.
So he starts beating her head against the wall, but she's fucking strong and she gets away. And she runs out into the street and starts screaming for help. And he runs away.
That's so scary. And also with her kid in there, that's really scary.
I know. But she starts screaming, "Help us, help us, help us." He flees the scene. Police found evidence at the house. They find like his belt buckle, they find the screwdriver, and they find the knife. And somehow they pretty quickly follow it back to Krebs. And Anishka and her 7-year-old identify him in a lineup. He admitted to both rapes and was given a whopping 20 years and served 10 years for these two violent fucking attacks.
Also, he's a repeat offender, but that's better than the three months we heard about last time.
Yeah, but it's like he's a repeat offender. Like, what the fuck? And he has like a history in mental hospitals where they're like, "This guy's dangerous," and they're just like, "Have a nice day, sir." So he's released September 7th, 1997. And as we all know, the attack happened just over a year later, his first attack. Yeah. He moved out, or when he got out of prison, he moves to San Luis Obispo. The rest you already know. So his parole officer points this out. And the lead officer on the case, who thank God is a woman named Karen Sandusky, interviews Krebs and also searches his home because he's on parole. So they don't need a warrant. They didn't find anything the first time they searched his house, anything relating to the case, but they did find BBs. And they're like, "Why do you have BBs?" And he admits to having a BB gun, which is a violation of his parole.
Yeah.
So they wait and they go to his work the next day while he's there and they find the BB gun at work. And he admits it's his. So they arrest him. They take him in and they search his house again. And this time they find the VCR, the videotapes, and most damning, they find Andrea's 8-ball keychain, which her mother had reported as missing.
Okay.
So on April 22nd, while in custody on that parole violation, he waived his right to an attorney and agreed to speak to the police. He then admitted to both murders and led police to the bodies. Andrea's body was outside his back window, like 20 feet from his house.
Oh my gosh, that's so scary.
Yeah. So that's like a very Gacy moment, right? To have the body right there.
Yeah. Or Paul Flores, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yes, very much. So weird that that's actually. I didn't even think about that.
They were
that's
just like having lunch and drinks and stuff right on top of Kristen Smart's body.
Yeah, so. That's fucking insane. So very similar. So he, he's an alcoholic. He said, when I abducted Rachel, I had been at least 6 shots of Jameson deep. When I drink, I'm a bad man. I do terrible things.
I think you're bad, period. But
yeah. Okay. And he actually confessed, and his quote was, "If I am not a monster, then what am I?" So he knows. He knows he's terrible.
He gets it.
Yeah. So he leads them to both of the bodies. The reason we know what happened to them is because he told us, which police actually think like, did he just choke? Did he just strangle Rachel and then lie about it? But he seems very forthcoming. And honestly, the way she died is way more horrific than if he had just strangled her. So I feel like it's probably real,
Yeah, no, it was horrible no matter what.
Yeah. So he was arrested, obviously went to trial. He was given the death penalty. But we're in California.
Yeah, so. But he's in that like elite like little club there of that like I always think about the single hallway dorm that's like Charles Ng and Rodney Alcala, or Alcala's not there anymore.
No.
But, but he was. Like, it's a really intense like
club of
situation.
People. Yeah. And when Gavin
Randy Kraft.
Oh fuck that. Ugh.
Yeah.
When Newsom put the moratorium, the prosecutors in this case reached out and they were like, pretty please let us just kill him.
Just the one.
Just a taste, sir.
No, I mean, like, it's if you're trying to rank the worst people on California's death row, there's some doozies.
There's worse than him. I mean, which is a million's a million. Like
no, it's just hard. It's hard to rank murders, obviously, but there's some real doozies in that group.
There are. So he has not even really begun the appeal process, which is crazy because he was sentenced in like 2001. So even if Newsom comes out of office and the next person in office goes back to allowing murders, which I hope they don't, he probably won't be put to death until he starts the appeals process, because he hasn't even had to start because there's been a moratorium. So anybody in prison has all this extra time. They don't have to start appealing yet because nobody's actually trying to kill them. So if he does get put to death, it will be in a very long time, probably. But in the meantime, he is on death row at San Quentin.
Okay.
Well, fuck him. Good riddance.
Hanging out with Randy Kraft and Charles Ng and
just being
all kinds of guys.
Big old piece of shit. Yep.
Fun serial killer party.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Pretty fucking sad.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. What's yours?
I'm gonna round us out here with the saga of Miss Shauna Nelson, and this will remind you of your clown murder from last time.
Oh, fun. Okay.
This happened in 2007 in Greeley, Colorado.
Okay.
Heather. We're not going to start with Shauna. We're going to start with Heather Garris.
Okay.
She was married to Ignacio Garris, who went by Ig. Okay. Ignacio is a cop, Cindy.
Oh, lovely. Okay.
Yep. It's going to be a tapestry of cops, this story.
Okay.
So she's married to Ignacio as a cop.
Love that.
Together they have a 9-year-old daughter, Victoria. After Heather's parents pass away, she struggles a lot with anxiety, depression. They pass away like back to back. It's like, that's rough no matter what.
Right.
So she's having a rough time. And as a result, he's that kind of guy where he's like, you're depressed. I'm angry at you about it. Like, instead of being helpful, he's just like resentful.
Right.
In 2003, Ignacio starts having an affair with his coworker, essentially police dispatcher, Shauna Nelson. She is the 911 dispatcher.
Lovely.
She herself was married to another cop, a sheriff's deputy named Ken Nelson.
Okay.
With whom she had 2 kids.
Ugh.
And Shauna's BFF, best friend forever, is another cop, sheriff's deputy Michelle Moore. So just keep her in mind.
Okay.
So cop on cop on cop.
So many cops.
So no, too many. So this affair between Shauna and Ignacio first breaks up Shauna's marriage to Ken.
Okay.
As Ken finds out and is like, get the fuck out, and demands a divorce, as is fair.
Totally.
So Shauna moves out, she gets her own apartment, and at this point she becomes like increasingly over time more and more obsessed with stalking, fixated on Ignacio. She's basically like, you are going to be with me. You're going to fucking leave your wife. And she's much more intense and serious about the relationship than Ignacio is. But he also never really cuts it off either. He kind of strings her along. But it is getting really way more intense from her end. At one point, she gets a tattoo of the name Ignacio on her ankle. And Ignacio's like, oh no.
Dude, that's way too much. Like,
that's too far.
You are just freaking out because apparently, like, to me, this reeks of like codependency. Like, I lost my husband, so now I need you to replace him because I cannot be alone. Yeah, that's a
rough.
whole lot. That's all.
She also starts going up to Heather, his wife, in public and yelling at her and calling her names and just accosting her in the street. And Heather's like, oh, what the fuck what the fuck is up with this fucking lady? You know, this random crazy lady. And Ignacio plays it off to her and says, oh, she's just someone who's like has a crush on me or she's obsessed with me, but she still doesn't know about the fucking affair.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Willful ignorance, maybe?
I don't know. This goes really far, like before things come out.
Yeah.
So Shauna also starts threatening Ignacio that if he ever tried to leave her, she'll tell his wife. So things are escalating here. But again, Ignacio never ends it, really.
Right.
So he's not into it, but he also keeps doing it.
Right.
Shauna then gets pregnant with Ignacio's baby for the second time, but the first time she got an abortion.
And this time she's probably stoked. I'm sorry.
Yeah. By this point, she's like, oh, I'm definitely having this one. Because she's trying to like, entrap him essentially. Yeah. So she has a son by Ignacio here. And Heather, again, still doesn't know what the fuck is up. She's off living her life. Truly crazy. Yeah. Like this other person has had her marriage break up. She's in another house. She's having a baby. And Heather's just like, boop, 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 boop.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So eventually shit falls out. I think because Shauna is threatening so much, Ignacio just decides like, I'm just going to tell her before like that happens. Right.
Right. Get ahead of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Ignacio tells Heather about the 3-year-long, by this point, affair.
Jesus Christ.
And the baby that he had with Shauna. And Heather at first is like, fuck you, this is over. But then she kind of is like, maybe we'll work it out. Like,
how do you work that out?
Listen, especially with a baby, it's like
3 years.
Hell no, dude.
Like, go be with that family. Like, this is done.
But I don't want to judge her. I mean, she has kids, and also like this guy's clearly a fucking dick, and he's probably being very manipulative.
Oh, please don't think this is a moment of judgment against her. Like, it's not. Like,
no, there's some shit happening.
Yeah, he's a manipulative piece of garbage. That's what's going on. So
yes, and he definitely wants to work it out. So he's probably like selling that.
Ugh, disgusting.
Being like, oh, but the kids and this and that. Yeah. So meanwhile, Shauna is continually sending Heather a barrage of very intense text messages.
Right.
She sends her pictures of Ignacio and her son, baby, with the caption, "Ig's flesh and blood."
I mean...
she sends Heather a picture that says, quote, Heather, if you're reading this, you are a psycho bitch. And you and R like the letters.
Yeah, no, that's not...
He also texts her, anytime, anywhere, bitch.
Wow. Okay. So now we're like threatening, but like,
yeah,
it does bear discussion. Like, what is the role of Ignacio with his baby? And like, what is Heather thinking that's going to look like with this woman?
So Ignacio's like, fuck this baby. Like, he wants nothing to do with the baby.
Yeah, that's not acceptable. This guy is trash.
Yeah. And it's like, look, just because you had this kid in a shitty way doesn't mean it's like, doesn't deserve a dad.
Yeah. Guess whose fault that isn't? You have
to raise this kid now. It's your fault. Like, deal with it. It's not the baby's fault that it came into the world in a weird way.
That's what I mean. Like, guess whose fault it's not? It's not
just
the kid's
fucking
fault.
Baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ignacio's clearly a piece of shit.
Obviously.
So, so it seems, okay. So, Shauna, in a surprise twist here, gets back together with Ken. They decide to work it out. And Ken seems like he's actually, well, according to many people, he was like a reasonably nice guy, and he's like comfortable with raising this affair baby.
Okay.
And Ken's like, okay, fine, I'll take you back. And eventually Ignacio signs over his parental rights, which apparently he was stoked to do because, like I said, he doesn't want anything to do with the baby. He's like, fuck this baby.
It makes me question. I'm sorry, like I don't want to victim blame, but it does make me question Heather that she was like cool with this.
Okay with that. Yeah,
like that's problematic for me.
I mean, maybe she clearly was in a place perhaps where she's just like just want to pretend it didn't happen.
Right.
You know,
nobody in this
get it out of the way.
Nobody in the story deserves to be murdered at this point. In my mind,
of course not.
But
like it is like a lot of questionable.
Yeah, there's some bad stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And clearly Ignacio is like maybe the worst asshole here.
Right. Also note that I said yet because I'm a terrible person.
Yeah.
So,
but like clearly honest. I mean, Shauna too, but like Ignacio is a big dick.
Yeah,
sure.
He's the worst. He's the worst.
And yeah, so so eventually the Garrises, Heather and Ignacio, send a like kind of cease and desist letter to Shauna to stop harassing them because even though she gets back with Ken, she will not leave them alone, like messaging them and calling them. And it's like, dude, like just take your baby and shut up.
Like you won, lady. You got your affair. You have a baby. You got the guy back. Like, what's your deal?
Yeah. And it seems like for a second, she goes away for like a nanosecond. Okay. It seems like maybe they're done with Shauna for good. She does send Ignacio a final dramatic email saying that she feels dead inside. Every day she's in hell, but like, fine, I guess I'll leave you alone, I guess. But she also signs it off with, I will always love you.
Jesus, that's like a threat. I will always love you, and that's a threat. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, also, like, that's not chill for Ken, too. Like, okay, you're, like, professing your love for Ignacio still. And guess what? Do you think Shauna's over it, Cindy?
No, I feel like maybe not.
She's moved on?
I feel like maybe she's...
Nope. Sure hasn't. 1 week later, after this final email, quote-unquote final.
Yeah, bullshit final.
Shauna waits outside the credit union where Heather worked. And Shauna is wearing a Halloween costume that is not so much a mask as it is a full body costume. And to describe it, it's got like a black fabric thing totally over the face.
Okay.
And then a cloak that looks like a Grim Reaper cloak that's lined with red. So it's essentially a Grim Reaper costume.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. As Heather leaves, she actually leaves with a group of coworkers. And Shauna, Grim Reaper Shauna here walks up and approaches her and is like, you, Heather, like basically get on your knees.
The fuck?
And pulls a gun, obviously, says get on your knees. And Heather does. I guess she's terrified. And then Shauna says, quote, you ruined my life. But also she says it in a fake deep voice. She's like, you ruined my life. Like she's faking it, right?
Yeah, because that's going to be somebody else. That's going to be a fuck. Yeah, that's so unnecessary.
Shauna then, by the way, in front of all her coworkers and friends, and I believe this is daylight too, Shauna shoots her at point blank range twice in the head.
Jesus.
Killing her instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And because the coworkers were there, they saw this whole thing unfold. Like they probably need some fucking therapy after this. And one of the coworkers calls 911. She's hysterical, freaking out, obviously crying, saying Heather's been shot. And they saw a person in the Halloween robe who shot her running away down an alley. And in the 911 call, this lady's like, it's that psycho bitch. It's that crazy bitch. Because they know that Shauna's been harassing her. Right.
So who the fuck else would it be?
Yeah. And also several witnesses who were there were like, oh yeah, that was Shauna that did. Even though she was disguised, they're like, it's fucking Shauna.
They're like, we can tell. We can tell who that is.
We can tell that was Shauna. Come on. And so for obvious reasons, the investigation focuses in on Shauna. Shauna says, by the way, when she's taken in and interrogated, it is really fucking funny. Like it's one of the dumbest pretend bullshit things I've ever seen. She says that she was not working that day for some reason, which was unusual. She was just home with the kids and she was out at that time because she wanted to get sandwiches and beers and booze. And that's what she was doing. And by the way, when she was out and about, totally just getting beers, right? Mm-hmm. She was pulled over by her husband.
Okay.
So Ken literally got the thing to get his wife, and he's a cop, and he did. So like, that's wild.
That's insane. Like,
yes,
that's wow. But I mean, I feel like Ken might not be like the biggest piece of shit ever if he's like down to get the collar and it's his own wife, but he's like, I'm a cop.
Yeah, I mean, I think he went out of his way to do it. Like, I'll do it, like.
I mean, if I were him, I'd be like, this fucking bitch. Like, she put me through enough. Thank you very fucking much.
Yeah, so he gets her. I mean, maybe he wanted to do it for that reason. I don't know. Yeah. But anyway, he seizes her and takes her in. She's interrogated. They also find the Halloween outfit under the seat.
Oh, that's a great hiding place. They'll never find it there.
Never find it. She was also wearing a hat of Ken's, and for a reason that will never be explained, she was also wearing Ken's underwear that no one could even see under the outfit. So
that's like... That's weird.
Weird. Yeah. She's also barefoot, and her shoes, which are like couple sizes too large, are found in the snow, kind of discarded nearby the credit union.
She clearly watched like half of a bunch of Investigation Discovery, like the first half, where they don't explain to you that that's all those things are like not good ideas or don't work, or like how to actually do it.
Yeah, she watched like the beginning of a Dateline and then turned it off before the person got caught.
Yeah, she's like, oh, that's how you do it. Okay, got it.
Great idea.
Hide it under the seat.
Yeah, and essentially a coworker of hers is doing the interrogation. This is someone she knows super well, right?
Fuck.
This cop. And she acts so fake shocked. It's so bad. Like, I'm gonna try to do an impression. But she's like, I'm so confused. I don't know. Like, what is this all about? You know? It's really bad. The cop, her coworker, is like, look, everyone says it was you. Everyone says you shot Heather. Like 100 people are like telling me you shot Heather.
Yeah, like knock it off, man. We've got the costume. Like, come on.
And when she hears that, she goes, what? How? Like the most like cartoonish.
Oh,
like,
that's
shit.
so embarrassing.
It's really dumb. And then at the end of the kind of interrogation, she's like, will you just give me a hug? She asks the officer for a hug, which he does hug her, but it's like very embarrassing. Like,
I don't understand.
Pathetic.
Yeah, that is really pathetic.
It's so pitiful. So surprise here, her BFF Michelle, another cop, is interviewed and flips hardcore.
So she was in on it.
She was majorly in on it.
Oh my god.
So cop best friend Michelle said that she was super in on the extremely elaborate and long but yet very poor planning of this murder.
Yeah, if that took more than a half an hour, these ladies got some issues.
It took 2 people and like weeks, I think,
that's
to plan this. But they're fucking dumb, dude.
Yeah.
So
wow, a dumb cop who isn't loyal? Tell me more. I've never heard about that.
Yeah, 2 dumb people, one of whom is a cop, did this.
Fucking Christ.
So Michelle will later say that the costume was her super cool idea. And Shauna was like, oh, sweet, I have the perfect costume. Like, you know, it's thematic. It's a Grim Reaper.
I already own it, so it could never be traced back to me.
Yes. Shauna had also been going to the shooting range to practice and telling Michelle that she was picturing Heather's face. You know, she's getting pumped up to do this.
Nice.
In Ken's one kind of downfall here, he does actually briefly get in trouble for taking the murder weapon out of Shauna's car when he pulled her over. So there might have been like a very tiny moment there of cover up.
Right. But then he thought better of it, it sounds like.
Yeah, he does, I think, like admit to it. And he basically is just forced retired. That's how he's punished.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. At her trial, Michelle, because she's also going to trial for accessory, but she does, but at Shauna's trial, I should say, Michelle, the BFF, testifies that she often called Heather a hag, and she once tried to persuade Michelle to cut Heather's brake lines and even gave her the tools to do it, but Michelle did not.
Okay. That's a lot.
Yeah, Shauna on the stand continues her streak of very bad acting.
Little baby talk.
She is like, no, I just definitely wanted him to stay with his wife. I was like all for that. And it's like, bitch, no. They show all these texts, these insane texts she sent, and she's like, yeah, I sent that, but that's not what I think, though. Like, you know,
yeah,
it's so dumb.
No.
And here's here's Shauna's defense. It is really fucking dumb. Okay, ready? I mean, she's not smart.
No, clearly.
In any level. So Shauna says that she and cop best friend Michelle were actually in a romantic, sexy relationship. And she had just which they weren't probably.
Yeah.
But she had then just broken up with secret girlfriend Michelle. And Michelle was scorned. And so she went out of her way to buy a Halloween costume that she knew Shauna already owned, then wore it to kill Heather to frame her.
Wow, that's a lot.
That's what she goes with. Yeah.
That seems like a lot of work, a lot of extra steps, a lot of extra steps. I mean, it could be a worse story. It could be a worse story. I've heard worse. I'm kind of proud of her considering what we know about her.
Right, but
probably
also
the top of
like,
her brain. Her
the abundant evidence of her hating Heather though, and like stalking her and harassing her. It's like so stupid.
No, totally.
She also makes sure to say on the stand that Michelle had seen that costume on at least 3 separate occasions. So that's, you know, that's how she knew to do it. Michelle denies that the entire affair even happened, saying she just invented this for this story, which is probably true.
Yeah.
Shauna is unsurprisingly found very guilty of first-degree murder. She gets life without parole. Michelle gets found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder, and I think as part of a deal for her flipping, she gets 9 years.
Okay.
Which fine. She definitely should have like said something about this, though.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
And just in a very random, sad conclusion to this, Victoria, Heather's daughter, died in a car accident in 2015.
Oh shit, that fucking sucks.
I don't know, it's unrelated, but sad.
Really sad. So, what happened to Ignacio? Hopefully, like all sorts of bad things.
Yeah, I hope some bad stuff.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, he sucks.
Yeah, he's terrible.
Yeah, and kind of like weirdly guilty in this as well. I mean, even though he didn't tell like Shauna to do it, it's like you brought this crazy person into here and you didn't cut her off and you didn't like end this firmly and like you didn't have boundaries.
No, this was his doing indirectly for sure. Yeah.
If he hadn't had the affair, she's what happened. Like
right.
Boom.
And like, don't get me wrong, like people cheat, it's a thing, it happens, like it is what it is. Not everybody that cheats is like ultimately responsible for the murder of their significant other if it ends up there. But like, this is fucking over the top. Like he was allowing this abusive, weird shit to just continue. So fuck him. He's a turd.
Fuck him. But yeah, Shauna was also wild in.
Yeah, so, they're all wild out. So there you have it.
There you go. Those are costumes. I tried to pick ones with like solid costumes. Too.
Yeah,
like
Rex Allen Krebs didn't have a solid costume, but he's just
the
so
skull
terrifying.
mask was scary though.
Yeah, that was enough.
That's scary.
Yeah.
I mean, there's also a lot of people. It was like the disguise was just like I don't know, something like pretty boring, like a thing over their head, or it's like okay, that's not good.
Yeah,
but I tried to go for Halloweeny costumes.
Me too. And I know the guy. Fuck, what's his name from the Jinx?
Robert Durst.
Robert Durst. He popped up a lot because he dressed as a woman for that murder.
Oh yeah.
But that was way too big of a case, and also really popular. Everybody knows it so well. Like I didn't want to do it, but I thought that was honorable mention for this list for
honorable
sure.
Mention, yeah. And also there's like Mr. Cruel. I did think about that too. And like Golden State Killer. You know,
there's a lot that incorporate a lot. But I like
Zodiac. Zodiac had a good costume for really one murder. Yeah.
The one at
execution
Berryessa, right?
Yeah.
I've been to that spot. It's fucking terrifying. Anyway, when I was young and like didn't realize how scary it was to go there, I was like,
did you go to like the exact spot? Because people know the exact spot.
I don't know. I think it was like it was kind of near Spanish Flats, so it's like
I think I have it on the murder map. There is an exact spot.
Next time I'm up there, I'll go because like I want to go, but I'm not getting out of the car this time. Like,
that is the scariest fucking scene in that movie. That is an intense ass scene.
Yeah. And also, like, you've been to Berryessa, right?
Yeah, at some point.
I've been to Berryessa like 500 times. We used to barbecue there. We used to fucking party there. It was Senior Ditch Day was there. We'd like, there were tire swings into the lake. The whole lake is fucking scary. There was a town and they just flooded the town. So there's like a town underneath the water. There's tons of dead bodies. I'm sure people die in the glory hole.
I think there's something like the Japanese are onto something with like bodies of water being like ghost attracting.
Yeah, it makes sense because there's a lot of shit under there that you just don't know about. But yeah, if people don't know, Lake Berryessa is fucking humongous. It's a man-made lake and there's a dam on the side closest to like where I grew up. Everywhere there is terrifying. It's like just there's not a lot of people around. It's just kind of eerie. It's fucking weird, but it's also really cool to go. But it makes sense.
It's not like the beach is also not really a good option when you're in the like far East Bay area. So that's like the most solid swimming body of water.
Yeah, but if you go there, our suggestion, because I assume you agree with me, is to go to like populated places and also don't jump off the high rock or the bridge at Spanish Flats. Rock jumping there is a big thing. Jump off the small rock because nobody's died jumping off of that, but people die every year jumping off the tall one and the bridge. Please don't be that person.
And like the Zodiac victims, don't go in an area where no one can see you.
Yeah,
you know, and you're totally isolated.
No way out.
Yeah,
you're just surrounded by the water. So don't do it.
Or just be like me. Don't go in nature at all.
Yeah, there you go. That'll solve the problem.
Go visit giant cities. Like I am right now.
Yep.
So
because murders never happen there.
Never. No, but I feel safer being around crowds than I do alone.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Guys, there's a loud plane, but they won't stop today, so we're just talking through it. Anyway, what are we doing next week?
So I want to follow up Murder Hotels, which was a new topic, with one that we did long time ago, and the episode is down, and it's a beautiful topic, and it is murder houses, legendary houses that are famous for their murders.
I like that because some of them can be fantastic. Like I feel like the hotels one didn't perform quite as well as a lot of our episodes because people are like, oh, it's a survey. There's no like real murder, but murder houses can just be like a serial killer's house filled with like
murders. Or like one notorious murder. Yeah. I mean, with the hotels, we had to kind of jump around and do a couple different little stories, but I thought they were very spooky.
I loved it, but it takes all kinds. And so this, I think, will be a little bit more of like a pointed thing,
It's a classic Halloween topic.
It really is.
There's some LA ones too there for us, maybe.
You know what I'm going to do? There's LA ones. That's where I'll be. No, I'll try to expand a little bit. I'm getting a little one note, I think. So I'll try to.
But also the one that we went to in Los Feliz. Like, that's a really, really good one.
I want to do that. There's so many. Oh, fuck, dude. There's so many. Okay, whatever. Anyway. All right. We could do Wonderland. Did we do Wonderland? I think we did. We didn't do Wonderland yet? Oh. Dibs.
That's like almost a Patreon though. That's an intense topic.
That is an intense.
That's really good.
We'll see.
Oh my god, we could just do ones of LA too. Honestly, we could just like frame it that way. But there's so many good ones.
There are.
Oh my god.
Well, you guys will just have to wait and see what we choose. So,
like sometimes I love doing 4 cases now, but sometimes it's hard when there's so many good ones. It's really hard. It's hard to pick.
But we can do part 2s always. Do a yearly, especially when it's themed to a holiday. It makes
fun, so. For sure. And there's enough.
Yeah, there are. All right, so that's what we're doing, guys. Keeping the Halloween theme train rolling.
Hell yeah.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. You're the wind beneath our wings. We love you. And this now international podcast, we'll see y'all next week. And until then,
stay
off our list. Stay off them.